Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at AGIX. This is going to be a lower time frame video. We do have a higher time frame video up above, so check that out if you haven't already. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Before we get into the lower degree counting here, what I want to talk about is the two main ideas that we have here. So within this one, what we are saying is that we have this as a potential 1, 2, 3 up into this high here. And what we were looking for was this fourth wave retracement. Now we have held this 1569, which was our area that we're saying that we'd be looking for as a 50%, and also have interacted with this previous fourth wave here. Now it is possible that we could start to see impulsive structure to the upside here, where we could still be looking for an additional push up here in a fifth wave. That common target area would be this 164 to this 094 region. Now it is also possible, however, here what we could have is that this move could form something like this as 1, 2, and we have another 1 and a 2, in which case what we'd be looking to do is hold this green support area over here. Now within this idea, I do think it is still likely that this is a fourth wave, because this wave 2 took a lot of time to take place, and this fourth wave is still within those parameters. Now it is still possible here that we could see a little bit more downside here. Invalidation is only by crossing this 0979. If we do cross this wave 1 high here, this would actually invalidate the idea of this fifth wave to the upside. Now within our more bearish count here, what we were saying is that this whole move could actually be an A wave down. We look at this as just a 3-wave move, where we look at this as A, B, and C completed into this high, and then we could be looking for this C wave to the downside. Now within this idea, what we'd be looking for as a potential target would be at least this 0.618 here at this 1056. Now if we did see this stop towards this 1056 area, this would be looking for a running flat. Now the only way we'd get confirmation of this, however, would be if price actually moves back up and takes this high. So if we see something like this and we develop this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we see this fifth wave come down here, what we'd be looking for confirmation would be breaking back above this high, and that would then give us that potential that this is just a corrective structure and we're looking for continuation to the upside from that point. So going to be on the lookout for this moving forward here. But if we do look to push down deeper, other targets would be this 121, which would be interesting because we'd be coming back into the lows here. And if this is actually going to become an expanding flat, we'd be looking for this 166 to this 0053 as a possible target for the C wave. So we need to be aware of this more bearish scenario here. We could still be looking for a deeper move down into some of these levels if we fail to actually hold this key support zone. Okay, so now we're going to go over the idea of the bullish count here, and then we're going to talk about that bearish one. So like I said, within this, we're looking for the possibility of a fifth wave to the upside. We're still looking at holding this potential fourth wave area, and what we were saying here is that within the structure, what we were looking for was the possibility that we had something like this. We're looking for this as WXYX, and what we were saying is that we're looking for this as a Z wave to the downside, looking for an ABC pattern. Now we did come up and we did reject off the 786 to the 702 area, and we have started to move down. Now the problem is, if this is the case here, what we're looking for is 5-wave structure, and what this would mean is that we need to see a nice clean 5-wave move. Now it is possible we could get something like this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, where we've got an extension in the wave 1 here, but a more common area for an extension is in that wave 3. So if we're looking at the idea of this actually extending out in the wave 3, what we could actually be looking for here would be the potential of seeing a 5-wave structure to the downside. And what this would mean is that we'd look at this as 1, 2, this is another 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to the downside. Now we're going to come in here and have a look at the structure. Now what we'd be saying here internally is that potentially this yellow wave 3 is done, and we could be looking for this wave 4. Now this wave 4 typical zone that we'd look to reject would be this 188 to this 1727. Now, if we have a look at this structure over here, we can see this is quite large and this wave 4 is quite short currently. It is also possible there could always be extension where this becomes 1, 2, and then we start to see a much more impulsive move to the downside. So we can't rule that out until we actually take this wave 2 high. But at the moment, what I'm looking for is confirmation that this is a fourth wave in this area. Now, if we are looking at this as a fourth wave, what we could still see here is that potentially we could get something like this, where we have this as an A wave, and we're still going to be looking to form out this B wave, and then still see something play out like this to the upside as a C wave, and then look for this push to the downside. There hasn't been that much time taking place here in comparison to this wave 2 here. We can see we've only just reached this 0.382 level. So if we do see price just hanging around in this area, looking for at least equality here, which would be looking towards the 27th of August as a possible target for the fourth wave. What we'd then be looking for would be this fifth wave down. Now, it is sometimes possible that we can get a smaller fourth wave than our wave 2 if our wave 2 has been a bit more complex, but this looks pretty simple. So I'm expecting that if this is a fourth wave, it could potentially get a bit complex here, and then we could start to see some sideways choppy action playing out here, where we see price look to come back down and sweep some of these lows before looking for an additional push to the upside here. So it's going to be a key that as long as we stay below this 188, we need to be on the lookout for this possibility of an additional push towards this 1542 to this 1459. Now within this idea, what we'd then be looking for is that potential that this could look to actually all be part of this white wave 3. We get a 4 and a 5, and then that target area would be towards this 1438 to this 1351 level. So going to be watching this if we continue to hold this impulsive structure to the downside here. This could align with having this extension in this way, so going to be on the lookout. Like I said, there is always potential here that we could argue that this move over here, because of how choppy it is, actually completes into this point here. This is a wave 2. We have 3, 4, and 5, and then we could just see a reversal to the upside. But until we take the high, it would be more likely that we're still going to see one more push to the downside here before looking for that potential of upside to come in. Now, what we were also talking about was the potential that we could just argue that this move actually completes into this high, and we've had a truncation here. And what we start to do is actually count from this point. Now, if we're counting from this point, what we have to be careful of is the fact that if we are counting down from that point there, what we could then see is that this whole move is A. We could be looking for a B wave still, in which case what we'd be looking for would be the 786 to this 382 level. We have come up in here already in this move here, but it is more likely that if this is a B wave and this is our A wave, that this could actually look to form something a bit more complex here before looking for that C wave down. So it's going to be very key here how we react. If we do continue to hold this zone and we start to rally to the upside, I will be on the lookout for this yellow resistance area here, where we could look to potentially look to target this 50% to this 382. This 50% aligns quite nicely with this high here at this 33.45, so that would be quite an interesting zone to keep an eye on. And what we'd be saying is that we could potentially look to form a flat correction here. So if we are looking at the possibility of a flat, what we would be saying here more locally is that this is our A wave, and what we're looking for is that this is A, B, and then we're looking for the C wave down. If we push past this 1618 level here of this 1460, it becomes more likely that actually what we have here is that this is 1, 2, and then this will become 3. We'd get a 4th and a 5th and continue that idea of the impulse. If, however, from this point here, we get this as 1, 2, we get this as 3, 4, and 5, and we don't actually get that secondary 4th and 5th here, and we look to move back up and cross this level, this could actually align with this whole move just being a B wave. Now we have come into this target box already. We have hit this 1, 2, 3, 6. So we have technically hit all these targets. It is also possible you could argue that within here we have this as a W, this is an X, this is A, B, and C, and it could be completed. So it's going to be important here as to whether we can break back above this 22.37. If we start to keep this low here and we continue to defend this area, if we see this move come back down, find support, and starting to look to break away in a 5-wave structure, then I would start looking out for this idea of actually having this C wave playing out to the upside, in which case a common target area, if this is going to be expanding flat, would be this 1618, which is this 35.59 to this 29.45. So what we'd be looking for in this idea is maintaining this low, seeing price starting to break to the upside here in 5-wave structure, looking to push up into these higher zones and sweep this A wave high. So this would be interesting, because if we actually throw that channel back on here now, what we could see is that this could align quite nicely with coming back up into the top end of this channel, and then we'd be looking for this yellow C wave to actually play out at a later date. By this move looking to push up here, it would give the C wave space to still actually look to complete around this previous 4th wave, which would still not invalidate the idea of still having that 5th wave to the upside. So this is why I'm keeping an eye on this idea. Now, we were also talking about this possibility. This could be W, and what we were saying is more locally here, this could be A, B, and C. But the problem is, you know, this move can potentially be counted as a 5-wave structure, where you would have to argue that this is 1, 2 here. This would become 3, this would be your 4th and a 5th, but it's not the cleanest of structures here. But what I'm just looking out for here to keep an eye on this count would be that if we do see price just form 3 waves down here, and we get 3 waves back to the upside, but fail to take this high, what we could still see is this idea of a C wave down. Now, like I said, this is not the most probable count in my opinion, but we need to just obviously be on the lookout for it. So if we do look to invalidate this idea of this additional fourths and fifths to the downside, what we could see is a move back up to the 786 to this 50% area, before still having this continuation down. Now, some of these targets lower down here in relation to this W wave would be the minimum requirement here of this 1449. So this would still be within this area of this previous fourth wave if we do see something like this. And then the 1-to-1 of this as an ABC, if we went up to this golden pocket area, would actually be this 1281. So going to be keeping an eye on this zone if we do see price looking to push down here. This could be quite an interesting area because of the channel, as well as the fact that we do have some fib confluence in this area. Now, looking at the more bearish case here, what we'd be saying is we're starting to break down in a bigger 5-wave structure. So if this is the case, what we would then be saying is that internally here, what we have is this is 1, 2, this would all become a wave 3 here. We'd be looking for this as a 4th wave, and we'd be looking for a 5th wave. Now, it is technically possible here that we could still see a move to the upside, and this could still be a 4th wave, because this would have taken quite a long period of time. The problem is I wouldn't want to see a flat again, because you would have had a flat over here for wave 2, and then we'd be looking for another flat as a wave 4. So it starts to become less likely that this is the case, and this is why I'm thinking that potentially this has just ended up being a more simple structure here as a double zigzag. And what we're looking for is this move to the downside. So this once again ties in with the idea here that more locally, what we're looking for is that 5-wave move down, looking for this as a potential 5th wave, in which case invalidation of this yellow 5th wave is here at this 1987. And what we're saying is this is 1, 2, looking at this is 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to get an additional 4th and a 5th, which would look to push us down into this target area here of this 1438 level. Interesting thing about this is that if we overlay the other chart onto here, what this would do is actually push us down into this green target box. So this green target box is between this 1595 to this 1337 level. So it will be very interesting to see if we do get these additional waves here, because this would align very much with coming into this zone. Now, what would this mean if we get a 5-wave move off this high? If we do get this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we get this 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we get another 4th and a 5th, we confirm this idea of the 5-wave structure. This move could be a C wave, or it could be an A wave or a wave 1. Now, if this is a C wave, what we'd then be saying here is that potentially, if we come back onto the daily here, we were talking about the idea here of this being a bigger corrective move, and what we're saying is we're going to see a C wave to the downside. If we do get these additional legs to the downside here, and we do move towards a 0.618, this could technically be a C wave. And what I'd want to see is a move down into the channel here, and like I said, into this 0.618 here of this 1056. If, however, we get this 5-wave move down and we only get 3 waves back to the upside here, this could still align with actually this becoming a wave 1, 2, and then we'd be looking for 3, 4, 5 at a later point. So it's going to be very key here how we react after this. If we do form a 5-wave move, 3 waves to the upside would indicate continuation down. 5-wave structure developing to the upside would indicate that we are potentially looking to continue to trend to the upside from this point, and what we could see is a break of these highs again. Coming in here and having a look at these CPR lines, what we can see is that the daily CPR line has printed slightly higher than the previous one, giving us a initial bullish bias here. But what we can see is that price is actually rejecting off the bottom end of this. If we continue to reject off of this, downside targets for today become the 1762. We have the 1736 and this level here of the 1706. Now this would be quite an interesting zone, because this would be aligning with coming back into these lows. And if we are looking for this possibility of a reversal, what I would be looking for would be price to move up here and say that this is potentially an A wave or a wave 1. We'd be looking for that wave 2, and then we'd be looking for that continuation up. So this could be quite an interesting zone to keep an eye on if we do look to actually see price come back down and sweep some of these lows over here. If, however, we do look to find support on this S1 line at the 1791, and we look to push above our central lines, potential targets for today then become this 1845, 1870, 1899, and this 1922. So we're going to keep an eye on those levels as we see price move through these zones today. Now within the weekly, we've actually printed a much lower CPR line here, which is indicating that the trend is potentially looking to shift to the downside. Now, what we can see here is that these are currently sitting here towards this 1850 to this 1915. So the center line is also here at this 1883, which is quite an interesting zone because it'd be coming back into these lows. Now, if we do see price actually look to push up here and look to move into these zones, we could potentially find resistance in this area. If we do look to test these and find resistance, what this could actually set us up for is during this week, we could potentially see price look to move down towards this 1530 area, which would align very much with the idea of having that additional fifth wave to the downside. Other targets to the downside for this week would be this 1241 and this 0893. Now, if we do manage to flip these weekly CPR lines into support, what we could then see is price could potentially be gravitated back up here towards this R1 line at this 2170. Other targets would be this 2521 and this 2812 as potential zones to keep an eye on if we do see price looking to push to the upside. Now, having a look at the monthly CPR lines here, what we can see is that price is actually pushed to the downside, and we've already interacted with this S2 line. Now, if we do look to move back down here, we'll be interested to see if we can find support again on this, which is sitting towards a 1708 level. So if we do see price come back down here, potentially we could look to retest this and find support before looking to push up. Other resistance above us for this month is this 1971, and then we have our central lines, which are sitting up here towards this area of this 2314 through this 2474. Now, the key thing with these is these haven't actually been touched yet. So if we do see price move back into these levels, there is a high probability that we could see a reaction to the downside. Now, it doesn't mean that we'd have to continue to sell off, but I would be expecting some kind of a reaction moving back into these central CPR lines that we have here. Now, if we do look to the upside here, we do also have the potential to test out this 2657 if we do manage to get above these CPR lines, this 3073 and this 3338 as a potential targets for the rest of this month. If we continue to push to the downside here and we lose this S2 line, potential is to move down towards this 1286, though we do not have to always interact with all these targets. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video. Leave us some feedback down below, and also in the description you will find a link to the Discord. Come check it out, it is free to join. Everyone have a great day. We will see you in the next one. Take care.